What's up guys, it's the new sensation, Bigger Notation here, and today I've got a video that I've been very excited to make because it is the next round in the Rising Phoenix Odyssey tournament first off, but it also features some of my new webcam scenes that I've been setting up and working on for recording with. So when I play in any sort of webcam games and I record them, or if I'm streaming any webcam games that I might be playing, I'm going to be using these scenes. I'm going to be working on them a little bit more because, as you might be able to tell, they're a little bit stretched at the moment. They're still kind of pixelated, so the quality isn't the best on them. But I'm going to work on that a little bit, and as for now, I'm just very, very happy with them. Just because it looks a lot cleaner than it did with the other videos, with the just recording straight up on Discord, and it's gonna give you guys a lot better view of what cards we're actually playing, and hopefully there won't be so much disruption with when people join the Discord chat and stuff like that. So I hope you guys appreciate the new scenes. I'm very proud of them. I'm not the best with technology, so working on this was really good fun for me, just learning a bunch of different stuff, but it was really good fun, and hopefully I can work on it a little bit more to make the quality a little bit better for you guys. Moving on into the gameplay, this is round 3 of the Rising Phoenix Odyssey YouTuber tournament, and during this round I was actually facing against Rising Phoenix Odyssey, so that's a double shout out to him. I'll have a link to his channel in the description. And I decided to bring my Agents of Destruction deck that I've been working on recently. This has been a very favourite deck of mine for a very long time, since it came out. I've always been a big fan of rainbow decks, and I think that the Agents of Destruction deck is probably the best functioning rainbow deck that Bandai have released so far. I know there's that new Bardock rainbow deck coming out in the anniversary box this year. It's delayed for me because I'm in Europe, but some of you guys will already have access to it, which is very lucky for you. I think that deck is going to be pretty strong and probably will be better than Agents of Destruction, but I haven't tested around with it enough to actually get a build together and figure out how good it is. But it will probably be either just as good or better than Agents of Destruction. We'll have to see. But that's enough about my deck. My opponent's deck is going to be the original Soul Striker leader. I believe he played the reboot Soul Striker leader in a previous round. If you guys are interested in that, I think he has gameplay up on his channel, so you can check that out. But he's playing an original Soul Striker leader. I believe he's playing a red-blue variant with like cooler arrival stuff and some aggro tools to help him arrival in coolers, and then he's got like combo attack cooler to bounce it back and get a bunch of double strike swings is the idea behind it, I believe. And then just abusing his leader's untapped 2 energy every turn is going to be really powerful. But Agents of Destruction is a deck that does very, very well into aggro because of cards like the Garlic Jr. negate and the Android 13 counterplay. So I'm going to be looking to abuse those cards as much as I can, as well as getting my Majin Buu Unison down as early as possible so that I can stave off some of his aggression, and then once he's gone all out on me, and hopefully I can survive it, I can kill him on the flip side on the next turn. So that's the idea, that's my game plan going into the game. I'll just start the matchup here. Like with all of the other gameplays, I've sped it up a little bit because this match was an hour and a half long, so I will speed it up so that it's a little bit shorter for you guys to watch, and hopefully I can keep up with the commentary. But I'm going to try and commentate over the entire best of 3 match like with the last video, just so that it's easier for you guys to digest as a viewer, so that you guys can just watch the entire match in one video. It just seems easier. I want to apologize again for the quality. It's a little bit pixelated, but it should still make all of the cards visible. But I believe my opponent had a little bit of glare on his side, so some of the cards have quite a bit of glare on them, and during the match I was asking him basically what cards are actually being played, because I was trying to figure out a couple of times which ones were which. But most of the cards hopefully are visible enough. So we'll get straight into the game, doing our mulligans. I can't entirely remember what I started out with during the first game, but I'm pretty sure my first hand was good. I didn't have very much trouble with seeing my Babadies early in the game during this match. and that's definitely a positive for AOD because it's got a very similar idea to the green Broly leader, the OG Broly, that runs like demonic restraint and stuff, because it really needs to see the Babidi early on that reduces the rest of the AODs by 1 energy cost for the rest of the game whilst it's on the board. But because the AOD deck has a card like the Hachiak AOD that's able to just bring it out straight from the deck, it makes it very, very consistent. And because your leader can search Agents of Destruction off the top 5, it makes it a lot more consistent than the OG Broly leader, where you only have the demonic restraints and the Broly that searches it out. Your leader effect can't search out the Hachiak or the 8-drop Broly in the OG Broly build. So it's kind of similar. It's got a similar idea to OG Broly in that you kind of need to see that card early on, but it's a lot more consistent than OG Broly because it has its leader search, it has Hachiak, and it also has the Agents of Destruction extra card which you can trigger. So here it's a very simple turn 1 from me. I dropped down the Babidi and passed. I believe my opponent dropped down a multicolor energy, I want to say, and then he swung with leader to untap it. It might just be a mono blue, I can't really tell just because of the glare. And then on my turn 2, I'm swinging with my leader. I'm taking as much life as possible because the earlier I can awaken, the more pressure I can start putting onto him so that I can start free playing my guys from my hand and taking him down. So here I swing with Turles, grab an Agents of Destruction Buu Unison, and just pass the turn there. Another part of the game plan that I want to be thinking about during this game is his leader doesn't draw on the front side, so I want to be able to leave him unawakened for as long as possible, and then I want to try and kill him on the turn that he's able to awaken so that he can't abuse his backside leader, because his backside leader is really, really strong and it's going to gain him a lot of advantage and a lot of tempo, but the front side of his leader isn't giving him anything at this point. So here he's just charging and passing again. He hasn't really seen that much in terms of proactive plays, and I'm just swinging with my Turles, grabbing a Lord Slug, Agent of Destruction, and that will just be helpful if I opt to awaken this turn, which I swing with my leader, and that puts me to 4 life, which means I now have the option to awaken this turn, and that means that I can now free play my Lord Slug from hand and force him to discard a card. I managed to see the extra card off the top 5 there, and so I'm obviously going to grab that. The extra card is easily the best card in the deck, just because it's effectively a +2 if you're opting to take the life and if you hit 2 cards off the top of the deck, but it can very easily go even or just let you +1 for 0 energy as well, because it gets reduced by 1 from the Babidi because it's counted as an Agent of Destruction card, and it costs 1 energy, so it becomes 0 energy while you have Babidi on the board, which is crazy strong. I managed to hit 2 copies of my Buu Unison off of the extra card, and I've already searched out the 3rd copy, so that's all 3 copies in my hand, which was very funny. I just decided to tap 1 for a Garlic Jr., bring out my Lord Slug super combo, and the reason I do that is so that I can use my energy before I awaken, and it'll also give me a couple more swings because I want to pressure his leader this turn, because this is his awaken turn. He's just dropped to 4 life, so I want to be pressuring his leader as much as possible to take some of his hand apart. Here he drops a Senzu Bean and puts his leader to 20k for the turn, which is kind of annoying for me because a lot of my swings are going to be 15k. But it's not too bad because I can just then free play my AOD Lord Slug, who's going to be 20k. That will force him to discard a card, and it will likely force him to combo out of the attack. So I swing to his leader of 20k, and I'm not planning to do much more this turn. I'm thinking I want to leave my energy open for things like the Android 13 counterplay and a Garlic Jr. So I'm thinking I probably won't drop the Majin Buu Unison this turn, but I might drop it next turn so that I have some energy available during his turn. And so that's basically why I just passed there rather than doing anything more proactive. I want to be leaving some energy open. I have my Lord Slug super combo still on the board, but I decided to leave that in active mode in case he's got a way to swing into it or try and KO it if it's in rest mode or something. It's just safer to have it in active mode, and it also means that I can combo with it during his turn if I need to. Here he overwhelms for Revived Ravager Vegeta, which is the guy where he can, when he comes into play with Overwhelm, he can mill 3, and he's a crit swinger. So he swings 15k crit onto my leader, and I just decide to combo with my Bojack Agent of Destruction, and then tap 1 to bring it in. And that's actually going to be really helpful during this game, because it means that his arrival coolers aren't going to be able to swing on my leader or anything like that. I believe that this card that he just played is just a simple 1-drop 5k, that when it swings you can take a life and give it plus 10k in double strike. I think it's the Vegeta from set 10. I think it's called like Savior from Our Future or something. But he just swings into my leader with that. And then he's tapping 1, and I believe he combos the Freezer to give it crit as well. So it becomes 20k crit double strike. So I'm definitely going to want to combo out of this one, and I think I just drop a super combo there. And here he's still got his leader swing available to him, so that's why he was playing all of that stuff, all of the 1 energy cards first before leader swinging, so that he could untap 2 and get the most use out of his energy there. I believe he just leader swings and then passes. It looks like that's what's happened, yeah, because I'm charging and I've just untapped. So I've got a really massive board here. He's got a decent sized hand, but because I have 4 energy and I'm sat on like 4 battle cards in play already, I'm really not too worried about his hand here. Here he drops Baby Hatch on my first swing. Luckily I swung with Turles at first, which is really helpful for me because it means I'm going to get an extra top 5 search. Something you want to note in this deck is generally you want to be swinging with either Turles or your leader first, but you only want to swing with your leader first if you're unawakened so that you can get the top 5 search. But that will just help you play around cards like Baby Hatch or any other floodgate negates like Topo or the Oceanus negate that came out in set 14 as well. Because it will just mean that you get an extra top 5 search before you're locked out of all of the rest of your attacks. Here I use my leader effect to bring out the Broly that I just searched off the Turles, and that will KO his 1-drop double striker and let me search the top 3. Something that I realized after this best of 3 match is when searching the top 3 with the Broly, I don't have to reveal what I'm grabbing. But I ended up revealing it anyway, and I think that that's helpful for you guys just to see what I'm grabbing there. So there I grabbed the Garlic Jr. negate, even though there was a Bardock Overrealm in those top 3, and I think an Agents of Destruction extra card as well. I don't think I had a copy of the Garlic negate in my hand at the time, and I wanted to make sure that I was safe for next turn. So I wanted to grab up the negate, because as long as I can survive this turn, his Baby Hatch isn't going to be available to him anymore. And so I'm going to be able to try and kill him next turn, basically. Here I have a copy of the Agents of Destruction extra card. I think I actually top decked that off the Buu Unison, which was really nice. And it just grabs me... I missed what I grabbed there. I think it might have been a Turles or something. But here I'm looking pretty safe going into his next turn. He does have the Baby Hatch on board, but I can bottom deck it with my Majin Buu -1. And that will just remove it from play, so he won't have access to it again. Here he taps 4 for this Gotenks that came out a couple of sets ago that I didn't even know existed, to be honest. But I think it's a 20k barrier, double strike, and deflect. So I can't hit it with any counterplays that I might have. I think I had God Sealing in hand, and so I was hoping to just hit it out with God Sealing, but I wasn't able to do that because it had deflect. And it has the skill where if I activate any counter skills, so any negates or any sort of counter plays, anything like that, he's just able to wipe my entire board, ignoring barrier, I think, is how that card works. I can't remember if there was a cost restriction, but it probably wouldn't have mattered for my deck because most of my deck is like 3 cost or less, so any sort of cost restrictions don't generally matter. But that's a really scary card for me to be up against right now, because it means I can't use my Android 13 negates to counterplay any cards he might bring in. I can't use my Garlic Jr. negates because I need to make sure that my board survives until next turn so that I can potentially try and kill him next turn. Here I can't quite make out what he played there. I think he overwhelmed. Oh, he overwhelmed into just a vanilla double striker that was 20k, I believe. And I decided to drop a second bean from my hand. So that takes my leader up to 25k for the turn, which means I'm pretty much safe for the rest of the turn. Because he's not going to be wanting to swing through a 25k base on my leader. He swings Baby Hatch in as well, and I just use my Boo -1 to bottom deck it. And because of the Baby Hatch permanent, it's going to get removed from the game. And then he swings his Gotenks, I believe, into my Turles there to try and get rid of some of my advantage that I'm going to be generating next turn. And I just simply super combo out because I don't have another copy of Turles in my hand, and I want to get those top 5 searches going still. So then he just passes turn. He's got 2 energy open. I think they're both mono blue there. And here I want to swing with Turles first, as I mentioned last turn, to get that top 5 search, get some value in my hand, get some free cards. So I grab up another Garlic Jr. negate, which is going to be helpful during this turn if I want to go offensive, if he doesn't have any sort of floodgates. And it's also going to be helpful if he does have a floodgate negate, where I can use it during his next turn to negate some attacks. So here I was just counting. I wanted to check how many cards he had in hand, so he showed me he had 4. So I swing with my Bojack, and then he opts to combo out with a copy. I can't remember what card he comboed out with, but he goes 20 to 15. And now I start flooding the board with my Garlic Jr. cards. And the reason behind that is so that I can get up to that magical number 12, because I have my Lord Slug AOD down, I have my Broly AOD down, and I Garlic Jr. to bring out an Android 13 from the deck, sack that off with the Lord Slug super combo in my hand for a XENO. So I sacked off 3 2 costs and 2 3 costs to make it for 12, which rips the last 3 cards out his hand and gives me a 40k quad strike dual attacker for game, because I'm on 5 energy there. So that's a really good demonstration of why I think XENO is still a really good card even after the nerfs, and people were still underestimating it, in my opinion. Because you can just stall until turn 5 like that. Sometimes games just grind on for a little bit longer than you would expect normally, and you can just drop XENO like that when both of you are depleted of resources. Just going to skip this forward because I think we were shuffling up our decks. I think my opponent was sideboarding. I had actually brought a sideboard to this game, but I ended up not using it just because I felt like the deck was pretty solid. And because I'm most of the time quite a budget player, my sideboards are not the best because I can't get a new sideboard for every deck that's like equipped to deal with the meta. So I just use very, very generic cards like Dark Power, Black Marseille, to try and fill out the sideboard in case they come up, but most of the time they don't end up being all that helpful. So I don't end up sideboarding. I felt like my main deck was honestly well equipped enough to deal with this matchup. So because I lost the last game, my opponent chooses to go first, and he simply charges a multicolor blue-red and passes. My hand during this game was really weird. I think I opened with triple bean and like a super combo and a Babidi, so I had to actually charge a copy of Bean there so that I could play the Babidi, and I obviously didn't want to like charge a super combo or anything like that. And then, oh yeah, I had a copy of the extra card in there as well as my 6th card to search the top 2 there. And obviously I want to play the extra card every single turn that I can, because you can only play 1 copy per turn. And then I just swing at his leader with my leader, search some more cards, take the life, and pass turn. So my hand is looking really weird at the moment because I still have double bean, and I still have, I think I have 2 super combos because I searched 1 off the top as well. So I'm thinking if I can get some bodies on the board, I'm going to be able to push really hard in a couple of turns, because I have 2 Senzu Beans in an Agents of Destruction deck where 1 or 2 energy can push so much for this deck, with cards like Garlic Jr. in play and stuff. I believe this here was his 1-drop double striker that takes a life, and so I just wanted to super combo out of that. The reason that I super comboed out of that was because I knew he was going to swing with his leader that turn. I knew that he would then have 2 energy open, so he might be able to pressure some more. And if I took the damage from that double strike swing, I'd go down to 4 life. and then I'd have to combo out of a leader swing to stop me from going to 3 life, and potentially another swing with his 2 energy. So I'd have to combo out the same amount or more if I had not taken the double strike hit. So I decided to just combo out, and I figured even if he doesn't do anything with his 2 energy and just leaves me on 5 life, I still have the option to take my own life with my leader. So I'm able to go down to 4 life pretty easily and awaken next turn, even if I combo out of the double strike swing. So that was kind of the main reason that I wanted to combo out of that. And then he just ends up passing. He doesn't end up using his 2 energy, so he leaves it open. And here I'm thinking I've got to be a little bit careful of cards like Topo and any sort of arrival plays he might have. Well, I should have been thinking that. I wasn't thinking about a rival place he might have, but I was thinking about Topo. So I immediately start off with the extra card, which is a great card to start off with in this deck. Grab up a copy of the Broly AOD and take a life, because the option to take the life on my leader is optional. And regardless of whether I take the life or not, I'm still going to get the top 5 search. So I'm okay to take the life from the extra card, and I'll still get some value from my leader. I tap 1 for Turles, which is pretty much the optimal turn 2 play. You want to be dropping Turles as early as you can in this deck. And so that way you can start getting more top 5 searches, because it's a barrier card. It's going to stick on the board for quite a while. Here I just had to mute because I think someone came in the room and I was chatting to them. But yeah, you wanna get Turles down on the board as quickly as possible to get those top 5 searches every single turn. And he's gonna be really sticky with barrier. And your opponent is generally gonna have to focus down your leader or some of your other battle cards as well before they can kill Turles. So he's generally going to stay on the board for quite a while, because oftentimes your opponent is going to have to deal with your aggression, and you have cards like Garlic Jr. to protect Turles, and the Android 13 counterplay. So here I simply use my Awaken so that I can untap the energy and have 2 energy available for either the rest of my turn or during my opponent's turn. And then I can use the Activate Main on my leader to bring in the Broly and KO his 1-drop on the board. And then I think I searched an Android 13 counterplay off of that Broly, because I might not have already had a copy in my hand. And then I swung 20k to his leader and he awakens. He's already down to 4 life, so he's probably feeling quite pressured at this point. He's in a very tough spot, and he ends up taking the life, so I think that puts him down to 3 life there, which is a very scary place to be when your opponent has still 2 energy up and quite a large hand. At this point, my hand is looking very big, so I have a lot of plays available to me. And because he took that life, I decided to push a little bit more aggressively, because remember, like I said earlier, I opened with 2 or 3 copies of Senzu Bean, so I still have 2 copies in my hand. So I'm thinking I could probably push quite aggressively here. And I just tap 1 for the Garlic Jr. to give me 2 more 15k swings, tap 1 for a Bean to push him up to 20k, so that if he tries to combo out, it's going to make it trickier. And he's still taking life. He's on 2 life right now. So I was thinking, damn, maybe I can try and kill him this turn, like if I can get a double striker down or something like that. So I tap another energy, go into another Garlic Jr. and decide to swing to his leader again. And then tap 1 for another Bean, going him up to another 20k. Here I think somebody came into the Discord server, so apologies for that. The screen on the right goes a little bit weird there. But I end up just switching back to the old format, because my scenes don't really work with other people in the server at the moment. I got to work on that so that it's properly fixed. But I didn't manage to sort that out in the end. But luckily the person who joined the server left immediately, so I just got to switch it back to the new scenes. And here I'm swinging Android 13 to his leader. He took all of the life, so he's on 1 life at the moment. And he's swinging, so I'm swinging Android 13 to his leader, and I'm thinking I can probably just start comboing in quite aggressively to either take cards out his hand or to kill him, hopefully. I still have the Lord Slug, I think that is, on my board, the super combo. But it might be a different, I'm pretty sure it's the super combo on my board that I brought out from Garlic Jr. Here he combos with, I think it's some sort of Tapion or something, but basically when it's comboed with or it's played, you get to mill a couple of cards. I think he just milled one there. And it just sets him up nicely for some of his overarm plays in the deck. But I'm still, I've super comboed into this from my hand, so I'm still on 25k, so he combos 3 cards there to get out of the swing. And as you can see, my hand is still pretty big, even after playing all of these cards. And I left that 2 energy open for as long as I could, because I figured if he has a card like Topo in his hand, I want to be able to use my Android 13 counterplays, which I had a few in my hand. And then, if you saw there, after I played Broly just to search the top 3, I actually discarded the 4th Senzu off that, which was a real shame. If I'd seen that 4th copy of Senzu earlier in the turn before I tapped out, it would have been really, really helpful, because I would have been able to make even more plays this turn. So here I start comboing very aggressively, and I think that's most of my combo power at my hand. Yeah, you can see I've got 3 cards in hand, and at that point I had 2 Unisons and Cell XENO in hand. And so I'm just comboing aggressively here to try and get the cards out of his hand. And my game plan is, I have 12 lined up for Successor on my board right now, because I have 2 3-drop Brolys, I have 2 Garlic Juniors, and I have an Android 13 and the Slug Super Combo as well. So I actually have 14 Successor energy cost in total. So I'm thinking I want to use this Broly swing to get some cards out of his hand, and then I'm going to Successor in Cell XENO just for the 40k swing, because it's so strong. But what he ends up doing, which was really annoying, was arriving in Cooler with 2 combos, and then he kills off my Broly and my Lord Slug Super combo by bouncing the Cooler back to his hand with a combo attack Cooler, and then replaying it with the Arrival. So he's pretty low on cards in hand at the moment, but he was able to clear out my board, and because he was able to clear out specifically the Broly, I wasn't able to Successor 12 into Cell XENO, which was really annoying for me. And he was also able to clear out the Super Combo, which reduces my combo power for the next turn. I think I'm still on 4 life here, or I might be on 3 life. I might have aggressively taken some life last turn. But I think I'm still on 4. But he swings with his combo attack, or he swings with his Arrival Cooler, and takes me down to 2 life. Remember, I have no combo power in my hand. I have Cell XENO and I have 2 Unisons, so I have to take that double strike swing immediately, and that puts me at 2 extra cards in my hand, which I can potentially use for combo. He swings with his combo attack Cooler and uses the activate battle skill to combo in a bunch of super combos, where he combos 1 from his drop area and then 2 from his hand, I believe. And he also swung with his leader there, and I wasn't able to combo out of that. So that put me at 0 life, and he managed to take game 2. I think that if I hadn't gone so aggressively that game, and I'd just waited it out and not gone completely shotgun on turn 2 there and tried to kill him with my double beans and my Cell XENO, I think that I could have probably done a similar thing to game 1 and potentially taken the entire match 2-0. But this was like one of my earliest games playing the deck, so I was kind of curious to see what it could do, and I wanted to test out how aggressive it could be and whether it could actually kill turn 2. And it got very, very close, so I was very impressed with the deck and with how it was performing, because when I originally built the deck, I was just planning for it to be a pretty standard mid-range or control deck. But when I started playing it, it felt very good as a more aggressive mid-range deck. So I feel like maybe building it more aggressively slanted could be a pretty good option as well. But here we're just shuffling up for game 3. He's side decking a little bit as well, so I'm going to skip forward again. And because I lost the last game, I'm able to decide who goes first. And I want to be choosing myself, because going first in this game is pretty helpful. And this is a really weird game, I want to say, before we get into it. So obviously the last 2 games I managed to see Cell XENO in both games, which was really helpful. I don't think I see Cell XENO this game, but as you can see, I mulliganed my entire hand away. And that's because I didn't see a copy of Baby Hatch, or not Baby Hatch. I didn't see a copy of the Hatchiyak or the Babidi, and I didn't see a copy of the extra card that searches the top 2. So I just decided to toss my whole hand away, because those are the 3 main cards that you want in your opening hand, and if you don't see any of them, you just put your entire hand back in this deck pretty much. And as you can see, I didn't end up drawing any of them, even though I mulliganed 6. So I'm in a really tough spot here, because not seeing Babidi turn 1 is actually really painful with this deck, because suddenly your entire deck costs 1 more energy, and so you're a turn behind with every single card that you play, which is really annoying. But here I'm just going to be using my leader swing to try and search for the Hatchiyak as much as I can, and as you can see that I showed Rising Phoenix, I showed off the top 5 search from my Babidi, the 3 Senzu were on the top of the deck, and we were joking like, oh, the deck definitely just wants me to draw them at this point, especially after last game. I think I searched a Broly or something off of the top there because I didn't see a Hatchiyak, and then I tapped 2 for my Turles because I need to get those searches going for Hatchiyak, and off the top 3 I see 3 copies of Hatchiyak, which is really incredible. We were joking how I just need to shuffle better, and so I started shuffling a lot more in between each search after seeing those 2 coincidences happen. But I managed to see the Hatchiyak, which is really important. It means that on turn 3 I'm going to be able to play the game a lot easier. He just simply charged and passed there, I think. He has a battle card on board. I think that might be like just like a Borgos or something. I'm pretty sure it's just a 1-drop that lets him like draw a card and has an additional effect, but I don't remember if it has barrier or anything. I'm not entirely sure which one that was. But I'm just swinging with my Turles so that I can get that top 5 search again. I tapped 1 and managed to bring down the Babidi, which is going to be really helpful for the game because I want my deck to cost a lot less. And so getting that 1 energy discount on everything is going to be helpful. I think I ended up just passing there, which was a bit strange, but the reasoning behind it was I didn't want to quite let him awaken yet, because I didn't want him to start gaining that advantage in that tempo quite yet. So I decided just to leave him at 5 life and pass and hope he didn't have a self-awakener, which I don't believe he does. Yeah, so he just straight up passes there. The only issue with it was that I wasn't able to swing with my leader that turn, and I should have swung with my leader instead of Turles, really, so that I could take 1 of my own life and get that top 5 search still. Because a problem that I have this turn is that I was really looking to go in this turn, but I wasn't able to because I wasn't able to awaken, because I was still stuck at 6 life and I hadn't seen any of my extra cards yet. So I wasn't able to take 2 life during this turn. I could only take 1 from my leader skill, and that was a problem that I had this turn. So I was kind of thinning my deck, looking for the extra card here, and hoping that I saw it so that I could awaken a little bit and get those free plays going. Another small misplay that I made here was, again, swinging with Turles instead of my leader. I should have technically swung with my leader first, because my leader's still 10k, and then he would have taken the life, and then on the Turles swing he would have had to combo out, or he would have taken another life, whereas here, because I swung with my leader second, he's able to just awaken and he doesn't have to combo in anything to combo out of the attack. So I should have switched the order of those 2 around. That was a minor misplay that I made, but it's not massively impactful. Here I'm just tapping 2 for my Broly, and I see the extra card, so I immediately grab it because that is the best card in the deck, like I'll say, and I will stand by it. That card is so incredible, and it lets me awaken this turn because it lets me take that life, and I grab another copy of the Hatchiyak up, which is great. And I also get to KO his 1-drop that he had on the board with the Broly skill. So I awaken, which puts me to 3 energy, and I believe at this point I had a Majin Buu Unison in my hand, but I didn't want to tap out going into his turn because I wanted to have cards like Garlic Jr., like my Bojack AOD and my Android 13 counterplay. I wanted to have those 3 live during his turn, so I didn't want to tap out at all. But what I end up doing is just using my leader effect to free player Lord Slug, gain a little bit of advantage, force him to discard a card, and then that's going to be another 20k swinger to his leader. And as you can see, his hand has been pretty big because he was able to awaken this turn and he was able to take a bit of life. But I'm just trying to get through it slowly by swinging at his leader and forcing him to combo out a little bit, and then using my Lord Slug to discard a card. I believe here he just super comboed in, and then he arrivals in his Arrival Cooler, and the annoying thing about that is that it actually goes through barrier, so he was able to kill off my 1-drop Babidi there, which is super annoying. But luckily I managed to get a Hatchiyak in an earlier search this turn, and so I just tap 1 and bring out Babidi. I decided to bring out 1 from my deck because Hatchiyak can bring out Babidis from the deck or drop area, and I believe at this point I had other copies of Hatchet in my hand, so Babidis from my deck would have been dead draws, so I decided to just start bringing them out so that I could thin my deck and get to my more powerful cards a lot easier. I think he also used Combo Attack Cooler during that combo step and bounced the Arrival Cooler back to his hand, but he didn't end up replaying it this turn at least. But I think his thought process was probably that I had 3 energy open at the time, so he probably wanted to keep the combo or the tyrannical Arrival Cooler in his hand for either some of my more aggressive plays or for removal on another Babidi that he might play, or that I might play, sorry. Here I think, yeah, he had to leave just for a second because his car alarm was actually going off, so he had to go shut that down. But he then immediately taps 4 for his own Buu Unison, and I was a little bit worried about that. The Buu Unison is obviously an incredibly strong card. I've been advocating for that card to be played for a long time, and suddenly it's being played almost everywhere. But he's got 4 markers on that, and then he's able to also untap 2 with his leader, and he's going to be able to untap 1 during the end of his turn with the Buu Unison +0. Here he combos in his Combo Attack Cooler along with a Saiyan Kaba to Arrival in his Arrival Cooler, sorry. And I think his deck was like a weird red-blue U6 deck. I didn't see much of the U6 package during this best of 3 match, but I think that he had like some combos that he was talking about during the game. And I assume that they were to do with U6 stuff because I saw a few U6 cards in there. But he swung his Unison. I believe he ended up swinging into my Broly because he was looking to take apart my board there because he figured, I guess he figured he'd killed the Babidi, so I would struggle to play more cards out from my hand. So if he could take apart this board, it would be a lot easier for him throughout the rest of the game. He could probably control the board very easily, especially with that Buu Unison down. That Buu Unison is a complete powerhouse. Here I just charged, and I'm charging to 5 energy, and we were both joking about how we were not expecting to get to 5 energy after the turn 2 kill game in game 2, but we made it to 5 energy, and I was thinking, I think I milled my XENO earlier in the game from one of his coolers, from his Arrival Coolers effect. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to bring in XENO this game, which I was a little bit sad about because we'd made it to 5 energy, and so it's pretty strong play. But even still, being at 5 energy for this deck is pretty strong because it means you have access to cards like the Buu Unison and cards like your Vegeta AOD Unison, and you're able to play those for 3 energy and still have energy open for your opponent's turn to have like Android 13 counterplays live and Garlic Jr. counterplays live. And I cannot stress how important that is. Being able to set up a Unison and keep those cards live during your opponent's turn is what you especially want to be doing with this deck. Like, that's the main game plan for this deck. You put on a little bit of aggression early on with like Turles and stuff, but most of the time you just want to wait until turn 4 or turn 5, set up your Unison with some protection behind it with your Garlic Jr. and your Android 13, and then the turn after that you can look to try and kill them most of the time. So here I'm swinging with Turles first. You always want to swing with Turles first if you're awakened, because it will get you that top 5 search. And I actually have another copy of the Hatchiyak, so I just ditch it from my hand to bring out a Babidi from the drop area. And then I can use my leader's effect to bring in a Broly, search that Senzu Bean and KO his cooler, which is great. I think he blocked my Turles attack with his Buu Unison there, and I was considering comboing in because I'm not going to look to kill him this turn. I'm going to look to try and get through that Buu Unison first. And so I ended up not comboing in, I believe, just because I figured I have some 20Ks on the board. I played down the Broly, which is another 20K, and here I'm tapping 3 for my very own Buu Unison, and that's going to be a double strike swing, so he's currently on 2 markers, and so I was thinking I could hopefully just take it out without having to combo in. But that was obviously wishful thinking. I'm against the blue deck, so of course they've got D-Magic, and he just negates my Buu Unison swing. I still think that this was the correct play. I still think I don't want to be comboing in on those swings, because I'd just be leaking too much advantage. And as you can see here, because he's had to combo out and negate a couple of attacks, he's on about 7 cards in hand there, I think, or 8. My hand is looking pretty big there. I think I was on about 11 cards in hand at this time. So I just want to keep that advantage going on my side. Here I start swinging at his leader because my 15Ks are going to be useless into his Unison, but they can do some damage through his leader, and it might force him to combo out a few cards, and that will give me some card advantage. He decides to drop Topo here, which is a pretty decent play. I think he potentially could have done it a little bit earlier in the turn, but he might have drew it throughout the turn somehow. I'm not entirely sure. But I think that if he'd had the chance to play it earlier during the turn, it might have been the better play. But I think... Oh, no. No. The reason that he wasn't... that he hadn't done that was because he was worried about Android 13. We were chatting about this during the game. He was worried about the Android 13 counterplay, because that card hits cards that cost 3 or less, and Topo costs 2 energy as it comes in. Android 13 is actually able to hit out cards like Topo, and so he hadn't played Topo throughout that entire turn because I'd had loads of energy open, and so I could have potentially Android 13'd him. But he figured, because I only had 1 energy open here, he thought it was a safe time to play Topper, and he was actually correct. I did have the Android 13 in my hand at that time, but I opted not to play it that time because I wanted to keep the energy open during his turn, because I had beans in hand that I'd searched off my Broly, and I had cards like the Garlic Jr. in the gate, and I wanted to make sure that I was safe during his next turn, because I could potentially die to his arrival plays that he's got going on here, which you can see him doing now. So he's... I believe he's swinging Unison either to my Unison or to my leader. And he's super comboed in, and then he brought in an Arrival Cooler, which killed off my Babidi and minus 10k'd on my Turles, and milled me a Senzu Bean, which is really annoying. Senzu Bean's super strong in this deck. And then he used the combo attack to Cooler to bounce it to his hand. Oh, I think he was swinging down my Turles at that point. I think that he could have potentially pressured my leader a little bit more this turn and swung the double strike swing with the combo power behind it into my leader and tried to look for game with his double strike coolers, but he ended up just trying to take apart my board, which I guess is a fair enough play because I still had Buu Unison live and I still had a bunch of beans and negates in my hand, so it makes sense. But he's able to get rid of my Babidi and my Turles, which is really annoying for me, and I think he also got rid of my Buu Unison there with his swings, because he would have had a fair few double strike swings too. And I used my Buu Unison -1 at the start of the turn to just bottom deck his Topo, because I figured getting that instant value would have been beneficial in case he because if I hadn't done that, he would have just double strike swung with Buu straight into my Buu Unison, and that would have taken it out because it only comes in with 3 markers in AOD. Here I'm swinging with... I can't make out which card that is, and apologies, there is a little bit of glare on my side now as well. I think I swung with I think I swung with a Broly that I have on board. Yeah, it looks like Broly. And he drops Topo there, and I'm immediately going to tap 2 for my Android 13, because this time I have all of the energy open that I could possibly need. I have a huge board, I have my leader free play available, so I have a lot of plays that I can do here. And getting rid of that Topo is going to be huge because I can probably try and kill him this turn. And it also puts him at 2 cards in hand because Topo forces him to discard a card, Topo gets killed, and Android 13 forces him to discard a card. So he went -3 that play. And because of that Android 13, I was able to get another 15k body on this board, and I was able to force him to ditch 3 cards. And then I tap 1, and I have another copy of my Hatchiyak to bring back the Babidi. I think I had that from a previous turn, which is why I was bringing back Babidis from the deck earlier. And I have copies of Bean, so I'm just swinging to his leader. I swung with the Lord Slug into his... or I was swinging to his Unison, sorry. I swung with the Lord Slug to his Unison, and I used Bean on something. I don't think I put down any dice there, which is unhelpful. But I used Bean to untap some energy. A slight misplay that I made during this turn was I should have potentially brought out the Babidi before the Android 13, so that it would have cost 1 less when he topoed, but I ended up not doing that, and the reason that I didn't was because I was scared of an arrival cooler, so I wanted to see if he had the topo first. Which, as you can see here, he had the arrival cooler combo, so he arrivals in cooler and uses his last 2 cards, a super combo and the arrival cooler, to kill off my Babidi and give minus 10k to, I think, my Garlic Jr., which makes sense because it's one of my few standing battle cards. And he mills a copy of my Agent of my Vegeta AOD Unison, and then I have the other copy in my hand, so I tap 3 for the Vegeta AOD, clear out his board. He obviously has no cards in hand, so I'm swinging 25 double crit into his leader, taking him down to 2 life there. And then I think I'm just deciding what else I can do this turn, because I've swung with most of my battle cards at this point, so it's actually a little tricky for me to kill him, and I only have 1 energy open, and I've gone through a lot of beans here. It looks like I was able to tap 2 for the Garlic Jr. and bring in another Android 13. And that's going to swing 15 to his leader, and he's obviously going to have to take that. And then I'm swinging 15 into his leader, and I combo the second Garlic Jr. off the board for a 5k combo, because it's not worth leaving it on the board because it's only on 5k because of the cooler from earlier that turn. And then he has the 10k combo in hand to combo out, but because I have that super combo on board, and I also had an arrival or an overround Bardock in my hand there, I was able to push through for that last damage. So that is the final result of round 3 of Rising Phoenix Odyssey's tournament. As always, big shout out to him, and shout out to him for being a good sport and being a really fun opponent to play against and chat to. I'll have a link to his channel down below if you want to check that out at all. But if you're interested in my Agents of Destruction deck, which I'm sure some of you will be, because if you're like me and you like rainbow decks, this deck is very, very fun. I will have a deck profile going up, I think, tomorrow. So if when that's up, I'll have a link for it in the description of this video, so you can check that out as well. But thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you want to stay updated with all of the new content that I'm going to be putting out, if you want to stay updated for when I release that deck profile on the Agents of Destruction deck, definitely hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. If you disliked it, press the dislike button and give me some feedback in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.